Did you know? I've heard of this. I didn't know it was quantified though. That there is indeed in the United States and and in the world, much of the Western world, a loneliness epidemic.
Mm-hmm.
Which astounds me. Let me ask you this, Ted.
Highlighted by the pandemic.
I think that's part. I think that's part of it, but I think that's a small part of it, and I'll tell you why. I think it's.
I'm not saying that it didn't exist before. I'm saying that it's something that we started paying attention to. The media started covering.
We were on the way. I just finished reading an article this morning about how Gen Zs are being fired left and right.
And many of them, it's like welcome to our world, Gen Z.
Gen Z much more and at a much earlier age because they're awful, because they're hard to work with, they're uncommunicative, they don't know how to have a conversation with a live human being. And I mean, it's one of the reasons I left the Chicago Tribune full time and transitioned to freelance with them, is because many of the new reporters, you'd go into the break room, and especially the men, the women would at least have the good grace to sneer at you, but the guys would just. True story. I walked into the break room. I said, "Hey, how's it going?" A guy's on his phone. He looks up at me, and it's like I pulled a gun on him. He goes,
he was scared. What do you want?
He literally ran away. He looked like, do you remember that meme that was popular prior to the pandemic of the Gen Zer in the onesie, the guy, and he's drinking a big cup of tea, clearly at his mother's house this is what this guy, I mean, the stereotypicalness of this. And my point is, the reason I bring this up is the loneliness and the depression and you and I talked about masculinity a couple of podcasts ago, and what that means and who should quantify it, who should demonstrate what it is. We've lost the ability in just the normal social intercourse of how to perform, how to talk to somebody else who's in the room and to actually enjoy it. Ted, I've had friends who lived in New York City who said that was one of the loneliest periods of their life.
Oh, sure. Now, well, that's well known. New York is it's that alone in a crowd thing.
Let's start with that, because I've been to New York. I'm a social guy. I'm kind of like, hey, I'm Scott, woohoo! And, I'll walk up to anybody. I'll actually talk to people on the train, and got a smile from someone once. Not this last trip, because it's scary time in New York City.
Oh my God. But did you hear about the corpse fucker?
Oh, dear God.
The NYPD is currently on the lookout for a man who, in a downtown financial district subway station, the Whitehall station on the R to be specific, a stone's throw away from the Staten Island ferry terminal and Wall Street. He basically found a guy unconscious or dead, robbed him, and then decided on the subway, and then decided to fuck him.
This is on a subway train. This isn't like a dark, dank corner
on somewhere. On the train. It's all caught on surveillance video, and basically he spent more time, making sweet love to this dead man's corpse than a lot of husbands do to their wives. Anyway, the point is he spent an hour and a half or something like that, and nothing happened. No one interfered. No one shot him. Nothing happened. Anyway.
Well, at least he wasn't looking at his screen.
Hey, he was looking for connection.
So I stand correct.
Looking for love in all the wrong places.
Oh my God, I had not heard.
I could do this all day.
Well, okay, Ted. Before we get back to the meat of the conversation, what would you have done? I don't know what I got to be honest. I took the L a lot in Chicago, which is obviously a subway system. If I saw someone
corpse fucking,
well, presumably, I'm going to presume for a moment that the guy was just passed out. He was drunk or stoned, and he was passed out on the train. What would you do? I'm not sure I would. First of all, I'd be so shocked. I don't know. I'd be mortified.
Well, whether the victim was, I'd say, look, even if you have two people having sex on the subway, let's say it's like, no. It's
it's beautiful.
Beautiful, young, married, in love couple, completely sanctioned by the state, but they're having
in
sex
the church.
I'm calling 911.
Really?
And if I see a cop, I'm telling them.
Would a cop show up? I mean,
look for a cop, because that's fucked up.
In New York, would a cop show up?
Eventually,
I bet the fucking would get I bet the fucking would get them to show up.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where they go, well, that's
That's
okay.
different.
Yeah, okay. I gotta see this.
Yeah,
But how
anytime,
can
when you talk to cops, they have so many calls that are the same, domestic violence or whatever. They love something new. Anything new is exciting to them. So, like, and by the way, this is a reminder that, like, okay, so New York is a city where cops actually have something to do. They don't need to arrest you for jaywalking. They have corpse fuckers to chase.
I don't know if you chase them though, do you? Because
Well, you can just, okay, so I'm the lefty here. I say if they just shoot him like a dog, that's fine. No problem.
yeah, I'm probably with you on that one. But getting back to my original question, which was not about corpse fucking, but it was
Right.
about how can you be lonely? How could you be lonely? And this is prior to the internet and smartphones and all that.
Mm.
How are you lonely in New York City? I mean, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of bars, there's a lot of things going on.
Well, it's true. I mean, look, you can definitely find connection in New York City, but I think, New York is one of those cities where you kind of, I'd say LA is similar. It's like when you have to pick the lock, you have to figure it out. And it's like, if you come in and you're an outsider and you're a tourist, you haven't spent a lot of time here, it's hard to figure out. Everyone seems like flat affect. They're not, they're not staring at you. Nobody's paying it, it's off-putting. So, you can't be like, well, hi, golly, it's so nice to see you. I mean, although, frankly, if you do that, a lot of New Yorkers will be very charmed by it. And they may take you in and say, yeah, let's get a drink, because it's so refreshing. They're not used to it. And it's like they like it. So I think you could go in with a big goofy grin into a bar in Midtown Manhattan and make new friends right there and then. I really do think that. But if you're a little shy, you might not do that. But there's certain bars are better than others for that. There's like, and then if you choose a neighborhood bar, like I have a great neighborhood bar right around the corner from my house.
Yeah,
it's like,
you do.
But it's like, and it's one of those like, everybody knows your name. It's great. And everybody's welcome. And everyone's friendly. It doesn't matter. But there's other bars like in Boston that are like that, neighborhood bars, but they're cliquey. And it's
God.
Like,
I almost got into, I don't get into, I'm a grown man. I don't get into fights. Grown men don't get into fights. That's idiotic. Okay. But I was in Quincy with my brother. We went to an Irish bar. And we start playing darts. And this guy said, "Can I play winner?" And I beat my brother, so he plays me. And I don't know what it was, Ted. I had a hot hand. I mean, I couldn't miss. And this guy is getting progressively madder and madder, and finally jumps in my face and like shoves me and says, "Let's go outside." I'm like, and it's important to note, no money was involved in this. No drinks.
You're a dart hustler, huh?
For which not a good one. I kind of missed a step in that there was no money on the table. And my brother had to jump in, and my brother, who does like fighting, scared the shit out of this guy. Yeah. So you're right about Boston, but in New York, I just, when we went there, Janine and I, my wife and I went there the first time in the early 80s when it really had a bad rep, right?
Well, for good reason.
And now it has a sterling one, but it went through a golden period.
It has the same exact rep. It's the 80s again. With less graffiti, but still.
Fair point. But we were on a corner a couple times, kind of looking around, clearly mystified. And we had strangers stop and ask, "What are you looking for?" And we said, "We're looking for the Pan Am building where United Media used to be," or something like that. And they said, "Okay, yeah, I'll show you. Walk this way. Walk, 4 blocks this way."
That's building for people who've been here more recently. Yeah.
Yes. But yeah, I can't. God damn, I'm old. So I guess that again, it's a quandary for me how people get lonely, because if you don't want to be lonely, there are places to not be lonely, and it's easy. And it's easy for me, maybe not for others. But we have a new generation now with Gen Z that has no social skills, and I do think that COVID, let's face it, they had 2 years of really vital parts of their lives where they did not learn social skills. They were trapped at home because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
But I think that's part and parcel to the ennui that now permeates not just the country. Ted, you know better than I do. You have international, much more international friends. Does the ennui, does that permeate Clovis? I see he is piping in.
Clovis is suffering from cat ennui.
Ah, mad. Anyway, poor chat.
It's because the heater's off and it's cold.
So what? Why is the heat off?
Oh, so if New York is the loneliest city, April is the coldest month in New York because the landlords turn off the heat because they can after April 1st, I think it is. But it's still, I don't know, it's like 42 outside. So it's it's ironic. You're going to be inside sweating like a pig in January and freezing your ass off in April. It's very strange.
That was true in Chicago. We had an apartment where it was built in the 70s, so it had a communal heating, cooling system, and they wouldn't turn the chiller on until there were like 3 or 4 days in a row that were cold, that were hot. Well, and it's St. Patty's Day one year, it was 85 degrees. Now, you were in my apartment in Chicago. It looked down Hubbard Street, which has many, 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 many bars. So many bars that the streets were literally chock full of human beings. And so I called Janine and she could not hear me on the phone. Bear in mind, I lived on the 20th floor.
Wow.
But I know
but
you're
sound
shocked.
does carry remarkably. I mean, I remember the first time I visited the Empire State Building observation deck, and I guess you're on 102nd floor, and you can hear people talking on 34th
It's
Street.
weird.
It's the most incredible thing.
When we moved to Chicago from, humble, Birmingham, Alabama, we got an apartment on the 20th floor and just assumed, oh God, you're not going to be able to hear anything. Oh, contraire mon frere. At 2:30 in the morning, you'd hear the drunks.
It's true. It's true about urban living. So, but I mean, so Scott, let's
take this to. I want to